I
for
think
you.
everybody needs to sing actually.
Sometimes I'm alone,
Hello.
sometimes I'm not, sometimes I'm alone.
Hello.
Hello. Okay. What is your anchor text?
It's familiar. It's Elka's. So some of this is going to be very familiar to you guys. It's Luke 7, 1 through 10.
Let's see what you made of.
Okay. And have you gotten a chance to practice these, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yes, ma'am. And is somebody? Yes, I see it right here.
Yes,
Okay.
Shonda's
Good,
got me.
good deal.
Oh
All
my
right.
God. Okay, I'm going to start out with reading the text. Okay. It's not text, but I want to start out with it. So, after he had finished all his sayings in the hearing of the people, he entered Capernaum. Now a centurion had a servant who was sick and at the point of death, who was highly valued by him. When the centurion heard about Jesus, he sent to him elders of the Jews asking him to come and heal his servant. And when they came to Jesus, they pleaded with him earnestly, saying, "He is worthy to have you do this for him, for he loves our nation, and he is the one who built us our synagogue." And Jesus went with them. When he was not far from the house, the centurion sent friends, saying to him, "Lord, do not trouble yourself, for I am not worthy to have you come under my roof. Therefore I did not presume to come to you, but say the word and let my servant be healed. For I too am a man set under authority with soldiers under me. I say to one, go, and he goes, to another, come, and he comes, and to my servant, do this, and he does it." When Jesus heard these things, he marveled at him, and turning to the crowd that followed him, he said, "I tell you, not even in Israel have I found such faith." And when those who had been sent returned to the house, they found the servant well. Before I dive in, I want to point out that this centurion was not like every other centurion in those Roman days. He was a different military man. He actually valued his bondservant. He built a synagogue for the Jews so that they could worship in, so that they could gather and hear the word. And he understood Jesus' authority in a way that showed he believed in Jesus. Other people in the Bible wanted to get close to Jesus, to have Jesus lay hands on them, to even kind of prove that Jesus could heal. But this centurion knew his authority in a way that other people didn't know, which makes people believe that he was a man of faith, that he not only did he build the synagogue, but he might have actually gathered and worshiped there as well. Just a little side note before we dive in. So, whenever I was trying to decide what areas of the scripture I could preach from, there are some obvious ones that jump out, such as Jesus' authority is a big one that's highlighted, that preaches. Jesus marveling at the centurion's faith, that really preaches. Jesus marveling, come on. But the thing that drew me in was the fact that the centurion sent Jewish elders to go get Jesus, to a few verses later, sending his friends to stop Jesus from coming into his home. So that made me curious, like what happened from sending the elders to get Jesus to sending his friends to stop him from coming? What happened in that time frame to stop that from happening? As I was meditating on these passages, I felt like God asked me how my experience in life reflected this story. Have you ever looked at a problem and really focused on it, and you're like, Jesus, come. And then you realize he's coming. Like, he's coming. Jesus is coming. And you feel him coming in the shift that happens when he starts to come. He starts knocking down walls, knocking down pride, knocking down shame, maybe even delivering you from a few things. Knocking down all the obstacles to get to you and to get to your heart. All of the things that you thought were keeping you secure, Jesus starts knocking down. It's interesting what happens when Jesus starts getting closer, how clarity comes. The centurion's focus shifted from, okay, my servant needs healing, to Jesus is coming. I believe he felt the gravity of Jesus getting closer and closer. And the closer Jesus gets, the more we come into realization and revelation of his worthiness and his holiness. Revelation will always accompany Jesus getting closer. Because what you have tolerated in your atmosphere, Jesus is not going to tolerate. The things that have tried to cloud your judgment, flee at the sight of Jesus coming. And the centurion is left with, I am not worthy. This revelation can also be seen in Isaiah. Isaiah saw the Lord high and exalted, seated on the throne, and he said, Woe to me, I am ruined, for I am a man of unclean lips, and live among a people of unclean lips. And my eyes have seen the King, the Lord Almighty. Have you ever had moments like this? Maybe not throne room moments, but moments where you're left in a place saying, I'm unworthy. So when I came to Reading for my second year, I invited Jesus to make the trek from Capernaum to come to my house for many things. I mean, like the classic things. Jesus equipped me. Jesus baptized me afresh. Jesus restore first love to me. I feel like that's like a classic favorite. Almost immediately, Jesus started knocking walls down. The things that I once was tolerating, he was calling me to no longer tolerate. I became so aware of pride in my life, and pride always tries to argue I'm worthy in myself. Like, I've earned this, I've deserved this, I sold all my junk and moved halfway across the country to come here. I deserve for this thing that I'm asking.
Wow.
And pride will always try and argue entitlement, always, every time. But when Jesus started coming in closer and knocking walls down, I was brought to the moment of, wait, hold up, I need to go call my friends, to go run out to Jesus and say, wait, don't come in. I needed to clean my home up and get my act together before he can come, and essentially trying to make myself worthy. I had a dream earlier this year where, this is going to be funny to you guys, but I had a dream that I had an arranged marriage. And at the time, I didn't realize it was actually Jesus that I was getting married to. And after the wedding, since it was arranged, I didn't even know I was getting married until this day. And so after the wedding, we were going back to my apartment, and I realized, like, there was a moment where it hit me. My apartment is a mess. Like, it's disgusting. It's a disaster. Things need cleaned up. And it was like the moment I was going for the doorknob of like, oh my gosh, like he's about to see this mess that I should have cleaned up. And I feel like that was Jesus saying, like, you invited, or like, you have all of this shame, you have all of this pride, and me coming close, I'm actually going to come and help you clean it up. Like, it's not your job to go into your apartment and look at the shame, look at the pride, and clean it up on your own. And that's what I always thought should happen. And Jesus coming close increases our awareness of sin. Like, that apartment I was living in, even though it was in the spirit or whatever, I was very comfortable just being in the shame, being in the offense, being in the pride, and living in it. But as soon as Jesus started coming in closer, I was like, oh wait, I need to address this. And I felt like Jesus was like, you want a restoration of first love? Pride can't be tolerated anymore, and I'm going to help you remove it.
Yeah.
Thank you, God.
This sin was keeping me at arm's length with Jesus and preventing me from entering into the very thing that I wanted. And I'm going to end with a prophetic word. So I feel like this sloughing off of pride that was happening in my life this year is actually not a unique thing to the body. I believe in this fresh wave of intimacy that God is bringing the bride back into is requiring a sloughing off of the old, not just old wineskins, but old things that we tolerated. I don't think God ever tolerated pride, but I believe in this shift. There's a rude awakening in the church where pride is being addressed. Jesus does not want us to keep him at arm's length any longer. If we are expecting 1 billion soul salvation, the church body right now is going to have to take on the role and responsibility of being spiritual fathers and mothers. And I don't think God is going to tolerate spiritual fathers and mothers having pride. I think he's going to call the humble into those roles. And when Jesus starts knocking down pride, it hurts. And at those times, it feels like Jesus is far away. But I feel like those are the times where Jesus is the closest. He's coming in closer.
So good. Amen.
And that's it.
Woo!
so good.
We'll start with your guys' feedback.
Yeah, give me feedback, you guys.
Go for it, Ethan.
I'm super impressed by your intelligence. It's like you're a teacher, you're a theologian.
Yeah.
You ask very fascinating questions. And I feel like I was seeing Leslie Crandall when I saw you speaking. I mean, you're your own woman, but just I could see like Leslie, the ability that she has and the way she leads. I can see you leading. I can see you absolutely helping facilitate discipling large groups of people who are growing and discipling people, leading a ministry school or being in a role where you're actively discipling students of the Word. And you have just this swagger about you.
Yes.
Ethan.
You're a baddie.
Leather jacket and all.
It was extremely balanced and well-rounded. It's like from your intro to the context to the story you brought to bringing it into the now. It was like nearly flawless how it all flowed. You're very good at this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Jamila, can you do a rec so I can become an RGP?
That would limit you.
Oh, good word.
Diana.
Yeah, I just really felt the invitation to come into that question. Like, what's Jesus going to find if he comes in closer to my house? You know, I really did. I found myself sitting here thinking, oh my gosh, what do I need to evaluate? What do I need to take to the Father and say, expose this? You know? Yeah, it was so good. That I mean, I responded to your questions. And,
Okay.
Okay.
I found it very interesting that your sermon was so totally different than
I know,
mine.
when you were preaching yesterday, I was like, this better not be the same.
And the fun thing, I had you in the beginning. You mentioned 2 or 3 different things, and I thought that's exactly what I threw out of my sermon. So
It's funny because I wrote that before I even heard your sermon, so I was like, okay, good thing I'm not like gonna make a dig at you on it to joke.
That's so cool.
It's amazing you got all that in 11 minutes.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Your words just flowed.
Mm-hmm.
Your presentation was good and everything like that. You flowed, that's kind of what I'm talking about, but it wasn't just that. Like there was the picture you painted, it made the story come alive in a personal, like, I was the centurion. Like I was standing there and feeling that anxiety of, oh my gosh, Jesus is coming, I'm not ready. And it flowed, it took the word and it brought it out and it flowed. And yes, your words were like perfect and your presentation was perfect, but there was a flowing of the Spirit that just was awesome.
First of all, you are a revelator.
Yeah.
So you don't just like use definition, but there's some anointing on you to help illuminate minds. To not just, oh yeah, that makes sense, but oh my goodness, I get that. And it reminds me, I love someone here said that that you remind them of one of our great leaders, but to me, I'm like, I see a Beth Moore who is in every way a communicator. She writes, she expounds and builds theology, and she also orates, she speaks. And I can see that on you. The first thing I wrote from the first line of your preach was, you teach with authority and it's refreshing to sit under. I think it's similar to what the priests might have been experiencing when Jesus taught. They marveled. So it was like, whoa. And I thought, whoa, did I write that too fast? And then it was like, no, I think it was evident from the time you started. Things that I love that you said that clarity comes as Jesus approaches or gets closer. And then you walked us through different ways that he does that. And then I loved you bringing in your own, like a high level view of your own experience with it. So the one piece of advice that I would give is you don't need that laptop. You can walk away from that podium, you can make eye contact with us, and you can engage us. You are a fiery preacher. Let her out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah, let her
I
out.
want you to develop this message for longer periods, right? So I'm not saying that what you gave us is lacking in content. I'm saying I believe that you're gonna get 30 minutes, an hour opportunities to preach on this message. And so the parts that I would definitely focus in on and allow yourself the time to expound on are, like I said, the different points of what it looks like when clarity comes as Jesus approaches, and your testimony with it, like some of the details of your testimony with it, and then the practicals. So when his clarity comes in these areas, what do you do with it? Do you know what I mean? And again, this is not because you lack something here, but just when you get more time, punch those things. You're gonna do great. And I feel like if I were to recommend you for RGP, it would slow you down. Not to say that God won't do that, but I'm saying to you, don't treat that as a pinnacle because your assignment is greater. Yeah, really well done.
Really good.
So good.
Yeah, Monica.
All right, hey Monica, your
Yay!
give it up for her first of all.
Yes.
Jason.
Jason!
So you might notice I'm gonna move a little bit faster because I do want us to get through
Yes.
at least 10